What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Yee Yee podcast. I am joined right here with the man in charge, Parker.
What's up, guys? I just waved to the camera. I didn't say anything, and I forgot we were on a podcast for a second.
Yeah, we also do this on YouTube, so it's a little bit hard. If that's really bad listening, by the way, if you're just listening on Apple Podcasts. Today we're joined by a very special guest. This is super exciting. His name is Richard, and he is basically, are you just the t-shirt guy? Is that just what we should call you, is the t-shirt guy?
Well, I've been called worse, but I mean, yeah, I'm cool with the t-shirt guy,
So, Richard, how long have we been working together? How long have you been doing shirts and other gear that we'll get into in a minute? But how long have you been working with Yee Yee Apparel?
So I think our first order was in 2018. So, I mean, it's been a few years. So it's been about 3 years.
You're basically my best friend. I talk to you more than I talk to anybody on a daily basis.
Oh, I'm honored. I know we send a lot of emails back and forth, man. So it's I love it. So
yeah, it's been great. Literally, like, if you look at my emails, it's like probably like between 5 to 10 emails every single day, and I'm like, I don't talk to anybody as much. It's funny how you like how much you communicate with certain work colleagues and certain people. Like, thankfully, we're pretty close with Richard, and you are up here. You've been up here a few times to be able to visit with us, but there's some people, everybody has those clients that they work with that are like so far away and they've never even met them. But it's like I've been like just conversing with you for 5 years. We have some people like that.
Yeah, that we work with in different capacities. So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get started in this business, and how long have you been working, not just with us, but in general?
yeah, so I've been at River City for about 10 years, almost 10 years now. Before that, I worked at a boarding school there in San Marcos, Texas. And our boss, Luke, was actually like part of like a networking group out there, and they did all the merchandise for the school, all the uniforms, all that kind of stuff. And so we connected, and then about 10 years ago decided to kind of switch career paths, and I've been in sales for 10 years there at River City.
How long has River City been around?
River City was founded in 1978. So at first they started out in Austin, Texas. For a while there, we had an Austin, Texas office and a San Marcos, Texas office. Shut down that Austin office a few years back, and all the production's done there in San Marcos, Texas.
So how did we get, because this was before my time, I wasn't working with you guys. I came onto the team, and y'all were already working together a little bit, not in the same capacity as we are now. Now it's a lot more quantity and just items, but how did you get connected? How did y'all two get connected?
So I'd been following Texas Humor. Maybe some of you Texans know what that is. It's a brand here in Texas that is pretty popular on like Twitter and social media and that sort of thing. And I just actually messaged their owner, JB Salceda, and I was like, I love what you guys are building. I'd love to come try to learn something from you guys. And so I visited their warehouse in Austin, Texas, and then he ended up connecting me. He was like, hey, who does y'all shirts and your art and that sort of thing? And I told him, and he was like, man, I got a guy that I love. I'll connect you. His name's Richard. He's with River City, and they handle everything, and the way that they handle the art to the product to getting it to you on time is great. And then I reached out to Richard, and we started working together from there.
Cool. Yeah. Salceda is one of like the e-com legends. He's been doing this for a while, and he's built a crazy brand. Do y'all still work with them?
We do. So yeah, a funny story about him. He came to us, just kind of out of the blue, and started printing t-shirts once their social media, got to, such a huge number, and he wanted to do fulfillment too. And I'm like, well, we don't really do fulfillment. We focus on, screen printing, that kind of stuff.
Wait, was that at the same time? Because Richard's went off too.
2 weeks in a row.
Sorry to interrupt you, Richard.
Hold that thought.
We have a milk chug.
Oh, man.
So was this explained to you, Richard, what's about to happen?
No, it wasn't.
So Hayden deserves this, actually, because he's the one who started this trend. Those of you who are not seeing the video right now, Hayden's phone just went off. A few weeks ago, we started it. You put your phone in the middle of the podcast studio with a 1 pint of dairy pure whole milk. Whoever's phone goes off first has to chug the milk. And Richard's went off probably 3 seconds after Hayden's. So
Richard's has gone off 3 times to my 1, but mine was just right before.
All right, go ahead. Like the 10 seconds of silence followed by a distant burp on the podcast. That is the, oh, wow, we got a close one there. I'm so sorry.
Was it easier the second time?
It's not the actual chugging that it is. It's just after. It didn't really, I wasn't that messed up. But we're just not used to, I don't really drink a whole lot of milk anymore because I'm not 8. But yeah, that's pretty terrible. And okay, so now we can turn our phones off because
has
Richard's
gone off
is
4
just
times
buzzing.
now.
Oh man, wow. Okay. You were talking about Salceda and they wanted to do fulfillment.
Yeah, and we don't really do fulfillment. I mean, we focus on the screen printing and embroidery side of things. And so once we started printing his shirts, he went around to local fulfillment companies and no one would fulfill from him because he was so small. And so then he started his fulfillment business. And
So what is that for people that don't know?
It's the shipping out products. So, like y'all ship out everything, here out of the, the warehouse here. He wanted to pay somebody to do it and he couldn't find anybody to do it. And so now that's really their main business is the fulfillment business. It's grown to be, a huge business here, in Austin, Texas. So, but we do still do all their printing. So.
Okay. So for listeners at home, what's different about like Texas Humor, and I don't know what the holding company that they have is, but it's not just Texas Humor. Texas Humor is his brand that he created that's crushing. But then at the same time, I think he saw a spot in the industry where, especially in this area of Austin, where he can say, well, there's all these other companies that don't want to deal with shipping out, which is one of the things that we do, and we're a little bit different in that sense that we do ship out and we don't outsource that, which is called fulfillment. But yeah, so he just has his own brand that he fulfills for and does all the operations of, but then also he has all these other companies, which it's what's cool about that is like you may it's basically like betting on the little guy, and then that little guy in a few years gets big and now you're doing their fulfillment. So it's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So let's talk start to finish, because I think a lot of people are interested in this, a lot of our listeners, and this will kind of be a conversation between you two, but what does it look like start to finish? So you have an idea, Parker, for a new product or a new design or whatever. Explain to me in a too long don't read version of what that looks like from every step that you're taking to whenever it's passed off to Richard and then back to us, and explain to listeners at home, and explain it to me in a very simple term, because it's really high level whenever you think about it.
Yeah, so we will plan out our launches in advance, and I will allot the amount of time that I think it's going to take to develop the product, to order it, and then to get it in hand, and then to give us enough time to market it. So we'll think about, it kind of depends on what time of the year is, what the theme is that we're going for, what the customer is, but I will think of a idea or a design to put on the shirt, or I'll see another product that I like that with a similar theme that I like, and I will send it to Richard. I'll kind of let him know if I have a certain color scheme in mind, or if I have a certain vibe in mind for it, and on what type of product I want it on, whether it be a shirt or a hoodie or a tank top and that sort of thing. And then Richard, why don't you explain what happens from, I guess, me sending the idea to you, and then kind of what happens behind the scenes that people don't know.
Yeah, so from there, we have a team of 5 graphic designers in-house. They all kind of have their different styles and things that they specialize in. And so, once we kind of see the design, we kind of figure out who to send it to. And then from there, they put it on whatever product Parker's looking for, like you said, whether it's a tank, hoodie, shirt. And then they send that proof to Parker, and then, he decides to order it or not. Sometimes those orders don't come through. Majority of the time they do. And then from there, it's finding the blank shirt, ordering that in. Hopefully they have stock of that shirt, because that's definitely an issue that we're running into, is, the supply chain issues. But, and then from there, it gets sent to our San Marcos warehouse, and then we print it. So, it's pretty simple. Once we get all the product in, all that kind of stuff, it's literally just a matter of putting the design on whatever it is that we're doing.
So what is a blank for people that don't know of like stock issues, and what does it mean when you say we're ordering blanks?
Yeah, and so we order blank t-shirts, blank hoodies, all that kind of stuff in-house. And so we order we order from like a Bella canvas, brand. We order it, and then, we private label it, and then, we print it, print the design on top of the garment.
So you're ordering like a ton of just literally blank
t-shirts. Yeah. And so, our warehouse is full of blank t-shirts. We don't really carry stock of anything. We order to order. So, we're not really holding any blanks that aren't being printed on in-house.
Yeah. So that's what we would call a domestic order, which is just here in America. There's companies like Bella Canvas or Next Level or Independent Trading Company, and these companies literally just produce blanks for other companies to put their logo on. And you will have different vendors and different warehouses across the country or internationally where it's like, okay, Parker wants X amount of these shirts, and then sometimes you have to pick and choose. It's like so-and-so we have 200 mediums in Georgia, and then we have to get the other 75 mediums from, California. And it can be really stressful, I'm sure, with the amount of different products that I'm ordering at the same time. And you're the one behind the scenes that has to figure out who has what and then get it in house. Has that just been extremely stressful for you? Have you learned to kind of manage that over the years, especially with all the time constraints of clients needing stuff by a certain time?
Yeah. So, pre-COVID, things looked totally different. Warehouses were, super well stocked, thousands of pieces of most colors, even in Texas. COVID really ruined the supply chain. And so, for example, Bella Canvas, who makes, thousands and thousands of millions of shirts, they switched off all their manufacturing to make masks during COVID. So when they stopped making t-shirts, the stock slowly started to dwindle, and it still hasn't, got back to the levels where it was pre-COVID. So certain colors of shirts, even hats, you just can't get. They're just not there. And so it's difficult. It's been really difficult, especially for large orders, like Yee's placing. It's we're rating every warehouse that we can get just to get, the amount of blanks in that y'all require in every customer. So hopefully here in the next 3 to 6 months, the supply chain is going to get better. But yeah, it's difficult, and when the shirts aren't there, they're not there. So
yeah, like one of our manufacturers for an international overseas order, that's not ordering a blank from another company. That's you dealing directly with a factory who produces the fabric, creates the construction of the product from complete scratch. And like our American flag hoodie that we've been doing, that entire country is on lockdown still. So we just literally can't make that hoodie this year because the country is on lockdown. And I've talked to other vendors who are like, there's just shortages because everybody let everybody go because they thought that the demand was going to slow down, and then now it picked up again. And so I've talked to certain people who are like, in the last 20 years, we've never had a 18-month span like this. We've never experienced anything like this.
Yeah, it's crazy. And people don't, most people aren't understanding. They're like, well, I ordered this hat a year or two ago, and why don't they have it now? It's like, well, I don't know. It's out of our control. So I can't make the hats. I can only order the blanks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're just the middleman.
I'm just the middleman.
I saw something about, it's a little bit different in the realm. I have to caveat, do a caveat with this because we're in country music. Granger is, and then Texas has stayed open a little bit more, but everyone is just ramping up their tours for the fall. And I was reading a really good tweet thread, and I wish I knew who it was from, but someone that works in the music industry the other day talking about how they're seeing now how hard it is to just order shirts. And this was a pretty bigger tour, I remember thinking. But all these bands at the same time are trying to get shirts. And that's just one tiny sliver of the t-shirt industry. That's just, bands, which there's a ton of bands out there and they're touring, but that's just a tiny sliver of how hard that industry has been rocked.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something that's, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So hopefully here it's going to be restocked, hopefully here pretty soon, but I don't have my fingers crossed. So
what's the biggest order that you've ever done?
Oh my gosh.
Just in general, not with us. Because I know you've told some stories before. I don't know if you can talk about clients, but
yeah, for sure. Man, we've done some pretty big overseas orders. So, outside of, the manufacturing that we do, there in San Marcos, we've also done some pretty large overseas orders. I would say the biggest order was probably, maybe $250,000, $300,000 worth of stuff from another company that's no longer in business. So,
What kind of product was it?
It was a order of fleece vests and hoodies.
So that's expensive.
It was, an expensive garment, times a lot of units, added up pretty quick. So
A lot of people don't know just the initial cost that some of these companies and the risk that they take to release these products. People are like, add another jacket, or you guys need to do this or that. It's like, that's almost all of our money to do that. And it's such a risk that keeps you up at night. And it's a lot of pressure on you too, to make sure that it's like, that's over $250,000. And some of these startup companies, it needs to be right. And you're putting the whole company at risk dealing with manufacturers that you're not able to talk to them in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And the even more stressful thing about it is these factories, they're not going to give you terms. They want their money up front because they have to order, they have to order the fabric, they have to order all the zippers and different things that, go into making the products. So, they require us to pay up front, which is definitely, can hurt cash flow for a company our size.
That's kind of been the reason that even with all the growth that we've had over the last year to 2 years, it's kind of been one of the reasons that we have moved towards these launches, because it's great for us we've gotten pretty good, I would say, at projecting inventory, and we're always trying to get better, but each launch it gets better and improves. And so that's been a really big thing for us, is to be able to just, like, sometimes we clear an item in one day. And granted, we order that item a little ways out and it sits on the shelf for a little bit, but it's so nice to be able to do that. And I can't imagine having another business model. I guess what a lot of people end up doing is they get investors, and whenever you pump $2 million into a company, I guess it's nice to help with inventory. However, the other side of that is that now your company, you have to give 30% to someone, that may not in the end see eye to eye with you,
Yeah, it's always nice to not have to bring in investors, but once you get to a certain point, sometimes it makes sense.
Right.
So.
Have you ever done anything for a sports team?
So we've done contract printing before for sports teams, and so they call it like hot market printing. So like, when the Astros were about to win the World Series, they had shipped us, I don't even know.
Was this the one that they cheated, or the one that they didn't cheat?
Definitely the one they cheated. Definitely the one they cheated.
Aren't you a big Astros fan?
No, I'm a big Rangers fan.
Okay.
We also have to say, and I don't know if he listens. He does follow a lot of our content, but we have well, I don't know if I want to. We have a former Astros player that was a notable player on that team. You can probably figure it out, but that is a very big fan of the Astros, or is a very he was on the Astros. So we had to be careful, because I hate the Astros growing up as a Rangers fan, and then all that stuff happened and I loved it. However, I've hung out with him. He's a very nice guy, and I enjoy him. And I want to keep him a fan, so let's just say that if he happens to listen. But go ahead.
So we've done hot market printing before. So they send us all the blanks ahead of time. They send us the design, a week or two ahead of time that says, Astros World Champs or Spurs World Champs. And then as soon as they win, we start the machines, overnight and print, and then get those shirts to the academies and the HEBs and all that kind of stuff the next day. So
I've always been able to relate to you in terms of having a bunch of demand all of a sudden, and so you have to find all of these people to come in, and it's not easy to bring in hourly workers. I think you said, I talked to you the other day, and you were like, yeah, we just brought on like 7 people yesterday for y'all's stuff.
Yeah, and so right now, honestly, we're running a semi-night crew to try to catch up for the next Yee Yee launch here upcoming. But it's been difficult to find people just to work, that even want to work. So it's difficult. So
did y'all print the Astros shirts, or it was like everybody was ready?
Yeah. So, as soon as they, won game 6 or 7, whatever it was, they said, okay, start the machines. And we already had, the films burned burned, the screens burned, all that kind of stuff. And then we just printed from, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. or whatever all night.
And this is the one they lost Game 7, right?
Oh, no, the one they won.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, no, the one they won. So
I was about to say your shirts ended up in Africa.
Yeah, and
that
sometimes
happens.
it happens. Yeah, so I mean, if we print the shirts and that doesn't happen, then they send them to Africa.
I remember that was crazy the very first time I found out about that in sporting events, especially like baseball or basketball, you can see the series start to go one way, but a college football national championship, you got to have all that ready to go for both teams. It's one game. And so, yeah, the team that doesn't win, they ship it out to third world countries, and you'll literally have kids running around with Notre Dame national champion shirts.
And that happened. I mean, when the Spurs lost to the Heat, we had started printing Spurs, world champ shirts, and then Ray Allen hit that three, and and everything changed. And we just flipped off the machines and said stop printing. So.
Well, you know what you should do. We may have to edit this out so your bosses don't hear, but you should take some of those and then sell them on the black market. One of those shirts has to go for $100 a pop.
I'm sure. So, yeah, they would pop us pretty good for that. So, maybe one day.
What is the quickest turnaround that you've ever given him on a product?
Well, I know it's probably your biggest pet peeve, but we've talked about this. When I first started, I was like wanting stuff, I think in like 7 or 8 days. And for most people, it's like 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe it may be longer now with the demand that you have. Sometimes we'll have a shirt of the month mix up or something, and you'll turn something around. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to knock up stuff in 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, so for example, we have 7 automatic press machines, and then a couple manual machines. We can do, I don't know, a few thousand shirts a day between all those 7 machines. A lot of that depends on how many locations the prints are, how many ink colors, all that kind of stuff. So obviously more colors, more locations, we're not going to get as many shirts done. Obviously if there's a shirts with like a 1 color front, we can knock out a lot more. But we try and knock out stuff in a few weeks. Doesn't always happen. A lot of that depends on where we have to get that blank shirt from. So, if it comes from, California, we're just ordering it, via UPS ground or something like that. So we're waiting on the shirts for a week. But a lot of times the shirts are in Texas, and, we can knock them out quickly. So the Yee stuff kind of takes a little bit longer just because, it's a lot of locations, and it gets, polybagged and hang tags and UPCs, all that kind of stuff. So that takes a little bit longer, but, we try and knock out stuff as quick as we can.
Yeah. So the River City crew is now working night shifts. All the fall stuff is ordered. For those of you listening, but when you're hearing this, there's a River City, Richard's guys are working tonight to get our fall stuff in, because that's just how far in advance we have to order now. And then each shirt gets automatically folded, and y'all's cool. It's very satisfying, by the way, automatic folding machines that fold the t-shirts. That would be a good TikTok. And then we just started adding the hang tags, and each one goes in a poly bag, and then each one also gets a custom sticker on it. And so it's an ordeal, I'm sure. Didn't you say that certain people are literally just fold hoodies for like 8 hours at a time for the entire shift?
Yeah. And so, we have a folding, bagging, tagging room that is specifically for that kind of stuff. But then, like the hoodies, they don't go through that machine just because they don't fit. And so those actually have to get hand folded and, put in a bag and all that kind of stuff. So, those hoodie orders, those large hoodie orders, they take a whole crew of people for 8 hours a day for, 3 or 4 days, just hand folding hoodies and putting them in a bag, and then putting them back in a box, and taking that box to the warehouse. And
it would be kind of cool to do a video of like the life of a Yee Yee product from inception, from like the email, and then it travels to Richard, and then the blank comes in, and then it's printed, and then you see like someone at night like folding you and then put it in a box, come to the Yee Yee
first
farm.
person, you're literally the shirt.
I kind of changed it halfway through. I was like, it'd be kind of cool if you were the shirt, but maybe, I don't know.
It's like you're the email and then you're the shirt.
We'll think on it.
No, we can make that happen.
The email would be like the fertilized egg.
Yeah, that'd be good. Last question, or not really even a question. Why we have both of, we talked about this. Y'all work together. quite a bit. Mostly y'all two, because I deal with more with marketing, and then Parker's on product. Is there anything that y'all want to get off your chest? If there's any time to like say something that's been bothering you about how y'all work together, this would be the time for content.
Well, if anyone has anything, it would be Parker, because I have nothing. I mean, Parker's super easy to work with. I will say we don't always meet deadlines, and these shirts, I mean, they're hand eye. I mean, they're loaded onto a machine by hand. So I mean, sometimes they might be crooked or misprinted, or we try our best, but I mean, Parker's super easy to work with. So I got nothing there. So
No beef here.
You're always going to have a margin of error. That's one of those things. We've really improved our shipping, because we track everything. We track how many orders come back with a wrong item or whatever, and so we've gotten better over time. And then Maddie has really helped with a lot of that since she's taken over. However, you're still going to have margin of error. The other day we're doing a launch, whatever launch it was, a summer launch, and she sends a report to Parker and I every week, and it's all of the wrong orders and what shippers they came from, and it's not really a discipline thing. We're just trying to improve. And I was like, oh my gosh, we had so many wrong orders. And then I look at how many orders we shipped out that week, and it's basically on par for our typical percentage. So we understand that there's always going to be that error.
And the thing that separates the vendors and really any company is everybody's going to make mistakes and things are going to happen, especially at that volume, but it's the ones that take the time to actually address it and fix the problem. And it's like, how can we avoid this in the future, which you guys always do. Every time we have an issue, you're the only vendor that I have that then is like, cool, we're going to avoid this in the future. We're going to add in this extra person to double check it. We're going to label each box with the exact size and quantity and let you know exactly what's in it. We had, like yesterday, we had a delivery scheduled to come to the farm, and it was after hours, and I was like, is there any way that we can have him come during hours so our warehouse manager doesn't have to stay late? You immediately called the driver and rescheduled it. So it's just going back and forth and fixing it according to the client's needs, which helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we always try to take that accountability. We don't claim to be perfect, and if y'all ever see anything that's not, I feel like we have that relationship where y'all can let us know, like, hey, this shirt's printed crooked, or these shirts were labeled incorrectly, or all that kind of stuff, and we'll always make it right. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see y'all next week. Eat your veggies.
All right, see y'all.
Thanks.